good energy, they may be like, well, what is that, like vibes? Because they're sick of vibes at this point in this election cycle. It's not vibes.
So when we're talking about good energy, we are talking about the very foundational way that our bodies work. We're talking about metabolic health, a word that fortunately we're hearing more about these days, but we're talking about how our cells power themselves, which might be something that people have never thought about before. And yet, metabolic dysfunction is the root cause of nearly every chronic disease torturing American lives today, from childhood all the way into our elderly years. So it's a term we've got to get familiar with. And the reason I wrote this book is because I had trained in the conventional healthcare system. I'd done what every good medical student does, rise the ranks of that academic ladder, went to Stanford Medical School, did 5 years of head and neck surgery training. And at the end of that training, before launching out into being a private practice or academic attending physician, I looked around me at what was happening in American health more broadly and realized that even though, I'm working hard in my lane as an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, more broadly, American health is just getting destroyed. It's getting destroyed. Chronic illness is exploding across the lifespan. And that's not something that I really learned about in medical school. I didn't learn about, why are these diseases going up? What are the factors that have changed recently in human history that are making us have this explosion of chronic disease? And that's a journey that I needed to go on before really launching out. And when I did that, what I found was that when you look at the science through the lens of root causes, not just the symptoms we're treating, not just the drugs that we need, to prescribe to all of the different ailments that we have, when we look at root causes, what we find is that nearly every chronic disease torturing American lives today is rooted in metabolic dysfunction. And that is an issue with how our bodies literally power themselves. So that's what I'm talking about with good energy. When our cells make good energy, i.e. have good metabolic health, so many of the conditions that are plaguing us can improve. And so that needs to be the central focus of our American healthcare system. And right now it is the intentional blind spot of the American healthcare system. And so that's what this book is all about.
And so it covers a lot. It covers the biggest thing is food and what we're, and that seems to be the biggest driver of cellular health. But it covers some exercise too, and it covers environmental toxins and things that we may be putting on our bodies and so on. So it's got the full panoply of things that will affect your cells and how you can improve. That's why I say if people, feel overwhelmed, they can pick and choose and just get started. But I think the food being such a huge influencer is empowering, because if you're not yet an exerciser, just start thinking about the food. If you don't want to think about your shampoo and your makeup and your carpet and all, then just start with the thing that you're most actively involved in, because everybody's putting food in their mouth every day. And these critical changes can genuinely extend lifespan and improve health along the way.
That's exactly right. The unique thing about this moment in time that we're living right now is that our world has radically changed, just exponential rate of change over the past 100 or so years with industrialization and urbanization and technological advancement. But from a cells perspective, we have, 40 trillion cells in our body. The world is very different than what it's been expecting through all of human history. And so what's really happening with our health being destroyed right now in our country is that there is a severe mismatch between what our cells need to thrive and work properly and what our environment looks like right now. And that's across lots of different domains. It's across, of course, food, which I believe is really that number one domain that we've got to, get back to the basics, because that's really that's the 2 to 3 pounds of molecular information that we put in our mouth every day to tell our cells basically what to be built from and how to function. But we're also talking about sleep habits. We're talking about the fact that we are sleeping 20% less than we were 100 years ago, our emotional health, the fact that we have low-grade chronic stress all the time now from these devices in our hands 24 hours a day that, are streaming fear-inducing sensationalist, news stories from all around the world straight to our eyeballs when we're at the dinner table and when we're in our beds. We're talking about the sedentary behavior, the fact that Americans are literally sitting 80% of the day. We're the only bipedal upright mammals, and yet we choose to lock ourselves in a chair for 80% of the day, just squandering the miraculous gift of being able to move. We're talking about the environmental toxins. We're talking about the 80,000 plus synthetic toxins that have entered our food, water, air, and homes over the past 100 years by industry, virtually unregulated, many of which are destroying our cellular health. We're talking about our relationship with light, the fact that ever since the incandescent light bulb was invented just a couple hundred years ago, and now at the advent of blue light emitting technology, we're literally blasting our retinas with artificial light all the time. And this is totally destroying our circadian biology and our core foundational cellular health. So these are some of the things that we're dealing with as a body, as a group of cells that make up our body, that's looking for information from the environment and not getting the signals it needs to function. So what the chronic disease epidemic really represents is this just sheer and utter confusion of our bodies with the signals that it's getting from all around us. And getting back to food, this is the one that, each of these pillars that I'm speaking about has a profound impact on our core cellular health and metabolic health. But food, we have to realize we eat somewhere between 40 and 70 metric tons of food in our lifetime. And this is not just calories. This is not just energy. This is the building blocks, the atomic molecular building blocks of our cells. And what people don't really realize is that our cells are actually constantly turning over throughout our lifetime, even though, we kind of look the same day to day. I'm kind of going to look pretty similar tomorrow that I do today. Actually, hundreds of billions of cells are dying and being reborn, and they are 3D printing themselves out of food. Isn't that incredible? We don't think about the body that way as a process. So we've got to give the body good information every single day and pay that bill of healthy, good food every day, because we're constantly changing over our body. Our gut lining, our entire skin cells completely turns over every few weeks. So we've got to constantly be feeding the body with good information. Right now, 70% of our calories are coming from ultra-processed, industrially manufactured, frankenfood, ultra-processed foods, devoid of nutrients, filled with toxic additives, a modern invention created by food scientists in the past 50 years that now make up the majority of our calories. Of course, we're sick. We are eating 70% of that molecular information that builds our body from essentially garbage that does not have what our cells need to function. So that's why food is so important. But the second piece is also that food is what tells our genes and our cell signaling pathways what to do. We think of our genes as our destiny. It's not true. Our genes are a blueprint, and how those genes interact with the environment is what our outcomes are. And food is one of those key things that changes our genetic expression. I'll give you a simple example that I talk about in the book. You look at a herb like turmeric. It has thousands of molecular compounds in it that the earth and that the soil has made for us to help our genes and our cell signaling function properly. And one of those is curcumin. Curcumin actually goes into our cells. It binds to proteins within the cells and changes the expression, decreases the expression of our key inflammatory pathway, which is called NF-kappa B. So you're eating this food and you're actually turning the knob down on an inflammatory pathway that drives disease. And we could talk about any natural food in this way, filled with thousands of chemical compounds, natural from the earth, from God, to help us live our highest purpose life. And we, instead of using that precious gift with real unprocessed food from good soil that's filled with nutrients, we have decided that food is nothing more than calories. And it doesn't matter if we eat nutrient devoid ultra-processed food from a factory for 70% of their calories. Well, this is a science experiment that has failed. Americans are just absolutely getting astronomically ill, and food is a key piece of that. And, unfortunately, there's a lot of systems issues that lead to why we have become enamored with ultra-processed foods, because of so many incentives at the level of the farm bill and at the level of how media is funded that essentially make us believe that ultra-processed foods are fine and normal when in fact they are not.
Well, I am old enough to have lived through the moment in time when the messaging changed from what's bad for you is sugary foods and fatty foods are fine to fat is the problem, sugar is the solution. They took all the fat out of the foods. To make them taste better, they put all the sugar in. And then we got hooked on this. We got hooked on these sugary foods. It wasn't that long ago, I guess 20 years ago, that I actually thought a healthy snack would be one of those packs of Snackwell cookies. My God, the shame. But I'm not alone. This I know. But one of the illuminating points of the book is that I thought that, and many others think this way, because we've been led to believe, we've been defrauded by virtually every person in charge of every industry that touches the food that arrives in our kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the unfortunate part that I think people really do need to understand, because people do actually listen to the science. You know, we do listen to doctors in this country. When the USDA food pyramid said eat 6 to 11 servings of grains and cereals per day, we did it. We got very sick, but we did it. When Fauci said get the jab, the majority of Americans did it. You know, we do listen to doctors, but unfortunately, at the highest level of our medical institutions, there are conflicts of interest and corruption that are actually making the science that we're getting not as accurate, not as clean as we'd want it to be.
Hungry Root is one very easy way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, delicious recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having someone else do all the planning and shopping so you don't even have to think about it. Hungry Root gets to know your personal health goals, your dietary restrictions, favorite foods, how much time you want to spend cooking, and more. Then they will build you a personalized cart for the week, including easy 4-ingredient recipes to put those groceries to use. Each order fully customizable. They've got fresh produce, high-quality meat, healthy snacks, and more. Everything from Hungry Root follows a simple standard. It has to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. Hungry Root is offering the Megyn Kelly Show viewers 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/Megyn, Megyn, to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. hungryroot.com/Megyn. Don't forget to use our links so they know we sent you. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.